my name is Susan Elias, and this is the Intro to Fashion Design with Fashion Unfolded. I'm going to show you the essential tools and room and everything you need to know to start your own design room and get started as a fashion designer. We start off with the essential tools, the rulers. Very important, the 4 very important rulers. We start off with a metal L square ruler that we use for the blocking process and to check other grain lines. We then have a 2-inch ruler that's clear and 18 inches long. This is the most important ruler that you can need for fashion design. Then we have this other ruler that's called a hip curve. It has a slight curve and it has this shape. This is for essential hip lines, neck lines, or any type of design line that would have a slight curve. The last ruler that's very, very important is called the French curve. The French curve is a plastic clear ruler with this shape. It has 2 holes to indicate a perfect armhole. And with this tool, you can be on your way. The French curve should only look like this. There are other French curves in the industry, but this is the only really true French curve. You also then need an industrial table, not too large, just enough that you can actually make your first designs and possibly cut your first designs. This is an industrial table. It's called a fill craft table, which you can probably have anything you want made. To the right height, which is about 29 inches tall. At that point, I have this special piece right here. It's actually a cork board. It was framed. I just bought it, took the frame off, put tape around it, and I can essentially do all of my patterns on this cork board. Again, of course, the essential tools of fashion design is having your sketchbooks where all your ideas start and just keep sketching away. We'll go into that in the process. You need both a sewing scissor, which cuts fabric only, and you need a paper scissor, which cuts paper only. You don't want to interchange them. Pins, this is for draping. I don't usually use them with the balls on the end, but when I'm using it for other purposes to show, it makes it easier for you to see. Pencil sharpened, you need tape, and you want a dull tape. You don't want it the shiny tape that you get when you're wrapping presents. You actually want a dull tape that when you put it down on the paper, you can actually write on it with pencil. This is called a notcher. It's a special tool that indicates how the garment is put together through these little holes. Home sewing is very different than professional techniques. I'm only going to show you professional industry standard equipment and procedures so you know how to do this as a fashion designer. There'll be times where you can cross it over with home sewing supplies, but primarily you're going to learn the proper way to get a design room together as a real fashion designer. If you're a home sewer, you would probably use pins. In the industry, we use something that's called weights. These are weights. They're just heavy, rectangular weights that we actually weigh down the pattern on the fabric and cut out. This is professional techniques. We also need these push pins. The push pins are to make the patterns and manipulate the patterns, and they have to be able to go through the cork board, just like that. When you're mapping out a design, like I showed you on my first YouTube video, we actually map it around every design element on the actual mannequin. This is something that you use. It's just a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch wide ribbon, satin ribbon. You can buy this almost anywhere. I found that's even more interesting and a little bit easier to use is this tape that's actually has adhesive in the back of it. It's made for architects. You can buy it in an art supply store, and without having to put pins through it, you can then just actually make a design line with the tape. So this black tape is essential for every design. We have 2 different tracing wheels. There's a regular tracing wheel that you can get in a home sewing store. It has very, very short prongs, not very, very hard. Then we have one with very long prongs. This is used for pattern making so that when we go through the pattern onto the fabric, we can then see the marks, and that will give us our indication of where we want to put our lines. We have also what's called a hook. This actually helps to keep all our patterns in place. Once we get our pattern together, we punch a hole with this tool that's called a rabbet, And then through that hole we put the paper, and after you make the hole with the rabbit, you put this through the hole and you carry your entire pattern with these hooks. This is professional paper used for pattern making. It's not too heavy and it's usually white, and there's markings, usually at 1-inch markings going across and lengthwise. This is to help you get perfect grain. So when you're actually mapping out a design, you have markings to help you give a lengthwise grain, a crosswise grain, and a perfect bias. So this is the paper you use for every design that you make from scratch. This is an industrial machine. The thing about industrial machines is basically for speed and control. The machine is a heavy-duty machine, and it has a lot more, how do I say this, power and clamp that allows the presser foot, which is underneath here, to hold the fabric firmer, allowing you to go faster and with more accuracy. Usually industrial machines can only do one or two things. This machine only sews straight. That's all it does. When you have a home sewing machine, as you can see, you can have an array of stitches. Even as a professional, I do keep home sewing machines in my sewing room and in my design room. Why? Because I cannot do buttonholes with this machine. I cannot do certain stitches with that machine, so this machine is as handy to have. This is an industrial serger. This finishes off the edge of a fabric and a garment professionally. And usually when you see a professional garment, you see this particular stitch. There is really no home sewing technique or stitch that you can get from a basic home sewing machine. The home sewing, this is called a super lock. They call it a baby lock. Sometimes they call it a serger as well. But it is a different stitch, but it's still adequate. It's something that you can use to get a professional garment as well. But it is not as strong, it is not as fast as an industrial machine. This has more power and it also has more control. You can go very, very fast. And the feed dog, which is underneath here, holds the fabric firmer so that you can go fast. Here we have an industrial iron. Why do I use an industrial iron? Well, in order to lock the threads when we're actually doing the blocking process, there's nothing that's like an industrial iron. It has the weight and the power and the steam control that you can't get from a regular iron. It's heavier than most irons. It's very, very heavy. This type of iron you don't actually put this way, you actually put this way on a metal guard that allows it to sit on there. It has a power steam button, usually connected to a tank. This is a simple tank. Some of them are very, very intricate and huge when you're doing massive production. If you're doing limited production or sample room stuff, you only need something this small. And in that has some particles that you use with water so it's filters. When you open this up, you can get the pressure and the steam from the iron, which is what you need. These are like pressing tools. These are professional pressing tools. This usually is used to make sleeves or pant legs so that you can press on a circle without making any kind of line. This is also it's called a pressing ham, and you can do also shapes and darts. And the tape measure, which you will see on my neck always, and you're ready to go. Lastly, I want to let you know, if you want to check out any of my new work or my current work, you can see it on Facebook, and it will also be then uploaded to my website as professional pictures come in. And I'm wearing one of my contemporary pieces. You can also see in stores very early as this year. I'm Susan Elias, and thank you for watching another episode of Fashion Unfolded. Please stay tuned for new upcoming videos. If you're in the Miami area, you can come to my classes. I have a 5-week course to teach you the basics of fashion design. Also, you can go to SusanEliasCouture.com, see my collections, read my biography, send me emails, and more information will be on the way soon. Thank you again.